I want to talk about something that nobody in the health and fitness, nutrition, and diet space is talking about, but that is very real and worthwhile. And that is making sure that your nutrition and your diet is not just supporting your fitness and physical goals, but it's also supporting your mental health. So, in today's episode of the PR Fuel podcast, we are going to talk all about how you can use your nutrition to help reduce anxiety, reduce panic attacks, help calm your brain, calm your mood, how your gut health also affects your mental health, how hidden food sensitivities can trigger symptoms that mimic things like anxiety and panic attacks. And then I'm also going to share with you my personal story with anxiety and panic attacks and how I have gotten into the fitness, nutrition, supplement industry to help alleviate all of that. So if you're new here, make sure you download the free guide that I have for you. It's called the Strong Fit and Energized Blueprint. It talks about the 5 hidden root causes that can sabotage your metabolism, mess up your hormones, your gut health, your mental health and physical health, but it can also keep you from being able to build lean muscle and boost fat loss. I have that free guide. Link is in the description, so be sure to check that out. So a little bit of what I want to get into today is everybody is talking about calories in versus calories out. They're also talking about doing extreme deficits in order to hit your weight loss goals or to lose fat. And I want to talk about what's very near to my heart of making sure that we are looking at the bigger picture of health and fitness and not just focusing on a certain number on the scale, a certain clothes size, or a certain physique, because it is so much more than that. And I was just talking to a client of mine about this who was telling me she was slimmer. She had lost a lot of weight doing keto. But one of the things she was struggling with now was she's got a lot of thyroid imbalances. She's got hormone imbalances. But she's lost all of her lean muscle mass. And now she's having issues with anxiety and panic attacks and sleep disturbances. And since we have started working out, she's actually put on a little bit of weight, but it is lean weight of lean, solid muscle, and she's getting tighter. Her clothes are fitting better, but more importantly, she feels way more calm and like her anxiety has come way down. And this is the big piece, because anytime you do any kind of diet, it's important to take a look at your macros. So a lot of people don't know what macros and micros are. So real quick breakdown. Your macros are going to be your carbs, fats, and protein. Your micros are going to be your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So your vitamin A, vitamin B, E, D, C, all of your minerals, zinc, magnesium, potassium, things like that. So what I was explaining to her and what made for a great episode for this podcast is your nutrition is so much more than just trying to drop weight. And it's such like it's an art. And there's so many calculators out there, but it's like, it's not just about weight loss. There's a difference between weight loss and fat loss, but then it's not just about physical health. It's also about mental health. And a lot of times I think I naturally attract empaths, intuitives, sensitive souls like myself, because most of them, when I take a look at their labs and we take a look at their hormone panels and their nutrition, they're way under eating or they are way under fueling in a certain macronutrient. So what this does is, and this is the reason why your nutrition does impact your mental health. And the first part we're going to talk on is how to use your nutrition to reduce your anxiety and improve your mental health, is when you are not consuming enough food. So we'll start with the basics. You have a daily base metabolic rate. That is the minimum calories, carbs, protein, fat that your body needs just to function. So even if you're just sitting around watching Netflix all day, we all have a base metabolic rate. When you are under consuming that on top of expending a lot more energy, what this does is it puts your body in a high cortisol state. So cortisol is our stress hormone. It puts you in this state of fight or flight. When cortisol is high, your breathing is going to be a little faster. Your heart rate is going to be a little bit faster. You're going to feel more on edge and irritable and stressed out. So what I always tell people is first thing you got to do is look at what you're eating. And the easiest way you can do this, honestly, like before I give anybody macros or any kind of diet advice, and I mean everybody, the first week we work together, I'm like, hey, all I want you to do right now, don't change anything. I want you to just track everything that you're eating. You can't make change if you don't even know where you're starting from. And I was explaining this to somebody else and I know it's frustrating and annoying, but I was like, think of your nutrition the same way you would think of your bank account. How are you going to invest and hit your financial goals if you don't know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out? It's the same thing with your nutrition. How are you going to hit your goals if we don't even know how many calories, macros, micros are coming in and how much are going out? So for the first week, all I recommend that you do is just track what you're already eating. Everything. If you ate an M&M, if you ate a Pop-Tart, if you had 3 pieces of cheese, everything just for a week. Don't judge it, don't change it, because what this is gonna do is it's gonna give you information. And all of this, because a lot of times when I'm working with people who tend to be OCD or anxiety or they have panic attacks, they get real nervous, especially if we do labs, because they're like, "I'm really scared it's gonna be bad." There is no good or bad. It's just information. This gives us, me and you, information to where are we starting from that got you to this point to begin with. Are you in a constant calorie surplus that is causing your body to have high insulin and high blood sugar and putting you in this constant state of storing storing fat? Or are you living in a deficit that your brain literally can't even function and properly produce neurotransmitters in order to keep you calm and relaxed, and you're just burning the candle at both ends? But we don't know until you track what you're currently doing. So that's the first piece. So the way you would use your nutrition for anxiety, number one, if you are somebody and you know this about yourself, I'm highly sensitive, I'm very empathic, I'm very intuitive, I feel a lot of energies, all these things. You also have had panic attacks, you've had anxiety attacks. If you fit that description, you do not need to do low carb. Low carb is going to make that so much worse. And here is the reason why. Low carb down regulates your neurotransmitter production. So, you know, the whole thing with a carb coma, people joke about Thanksgiving, like, oh, I fell asleep because I was in a carb coma and I had too much turkey. Here's the science behind that. When your body has enough complex carbohydrates, your cortisol comes down. Your cortisol, that stress hormone, comes down. Carbs help with serotonin production. Serotonin is a lot more than just your happy hormone. It also is related to gut and motility, meaning like being able to have regular bowel movements. But over 90% of your serotonin starts in your gut through the little bacteria you have going on there. And we're going to get into this in a second, how your gut health affects your mental health. But if you are not consuming enough carbohydrates, you are constantly going to have high cortisol running through your body. You're not going to have great neurotransmitter production. And the other piece of this too, if you're not consuming enough protein, you're going to have the same problem. Your protein is full of amino acids. There is a very important amino acid, tryptophan, that gets converted into serotonin. In order to have tryptophan, you got to have enough lean protein that you're consuming every day. In order for that tryptophan to get converted into serotonin, you have to have enough of B6, vitamin B6. A lot of times when I have clients and they come to me and like we're going through their health history, we're talking about their goals, and they're telling me like, I want to build lean muscle, I want to boost fat loss, I want to improve my gut, I want to balance my hormones, I want to optimize my health, and I just want to feel better. I don't want to constantly feel on edge. And then we talk about the mental health symptoms. Do you have anything going on? And they're like, yeah, I do get panic attacks from time to time. I do get anxious from time to time. I don't like tight spaces. I don't like this. I don't like that. And so we run all their micronutrient panels aside from the other panels we run in my program, which if you're interested in that, download the guide that I have for you, and I will send you an email all about how you can work with me. But when we do all these things, the key micronutrients that are going to affect neurotransmitter health and mental health are your B vitamins. B6 is responsible for the conversion of amino acids into a lot of your neurotransmitters. So, and you want to make sure too, if you're using vitamin B6, you have to make sure that it's the active form. So it looks like vitamin B6 P5P. You don't want the inactive form. The reason being is because when it's the inactive form, you are risking the chance of toxicity, where when it's the active form, you don't have to worry about a lot of that extra B vitamin floating around in your bloodstream. So when you're figuring out your nutrition, so back to number one of how do I eat, not just so that I can build lean muscle and boost fat loss, but that I'm also taking care of my mental health. You want to at least be meeting your base metabolic rate. I have a video, I'll put it in the description, on how to find your macros after you have spent a week figuring out where you're even starting at. You want to figure out your base metabolic rate. And then the way you want to split that up is making sure you're getting a good chunk of protein, a good chunk of carbs, and a good chunk of fat. So I believe in moderate, balanced eating. Everybody has different things. I am speaking specifically to people who are trying to building muscle, boost fat loss, but also take care of their mental health. You're going to want carbs, fats, and protein. This is not about other people that are on keto and intermittent fasting. So you're going to split that based on your energy expenditure level. And again, in the other video that I have on how to find your macros, I explain to you based on your body type, your goal, and your activity level, how you want to structure your macros. Because some people, if you're super skinny and you're a hard gainer, you're not going to use the same macronutrient breakup as somebody who gains weight really easily and is trying to just optimize fat loss. So you have to take that into consideration. That's also why I'm not a huge fan of macro calculators, because they don't really take that into consideration. So that's the first thing is making sure your daily caloric intake meets your energy expenditure. So this is the whole financial analogy that I gave of money coming in and money coming out. Do you have enough money coming in, or do you have more money going out? Do you have enough calories coming in, or are you overexpending those calories and now you are in debt in your body, which is creating a lot of things like anxiety, panic attacks, OCD, heart palpitations, high cortisol. That all is a sign to me as an integrative health coach. We need to take a look at your nutrition and your micronutrient deficiencies. So that's the first piece. The other piece of how you want to use nutrition to reduce anxiety and improve your mental health is making sure you are stabilizing your blood sugar. I have had a lot of people who come to me thinking they have anxiety and panic disorders when the underlying thing they actually have is dysregulated blood sugar, which will mimic those same feelings of adrenaline, fight or flight response, shortness of breath, increased heart rate. Because what happens is you're eating and your blood sugar is nice and stabilized. And then if your blood sugar drops too low, what your body does to protect you is it releases adrenaline into the body to keep your heart rate up, to keep you alive. It releases cortisol, the stress hormone, but also as a way to be like, hey, I need some food. Like, I'm running low on fuel. I'm just alerting you to let you know. It's your body's alarm system. So that can get confused a lot, is if you have dysregulated blood sugar, which is going to lead to another thing that we'll talk about in a second, you might notice a lot of those things. And I see this a lot in the diet space, which is why I'm so surprised nobody is talking about this, is people start doing these extreme caloric deficits and cutting carbs and cutting protein, and they're way in debt in what their body needs. And then now they've got blood sugar dysregulation. Now they've got hormone imbalances because of blood sugar dysregulation. Now they're getting hormonal acne. Now they're not sleeping. They're storing belly fat instead of losing belly fat. They don't have any energy. They're super moody. They're always tired. And it's like, well, yeah, because your body doesn't have enough fuel running through in order to take care of both your physical health and mental health. So what our body does when this happens is it turns off all of what it deems as unnecessary and focuses just on survival. So the next link of this, of where I was getting to, is this is what also leads to a lot of underlying hormone imbalances. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because when your body is in a state of stress, if it's underfueled, if it's overworked, overtrained, if you are burning the candle at both ends, even if you're not exercising, you can be sedentary and still be stressing your body out, simply through mental stress, emotional stress, always working, never resting, never activating that parasympathetic response, which your parasympathetic response is the thing that helps. That's what your rest and digest, that brings you down, that like, hey, it's time to relax. If you're never in that, you can be sedentary and still be stressing your body out. So back to the hormone imbalances, when you are in this constant state of stress, your body is very smart. So we have the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal glands. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what I'm pointing at. If you are listening to this on audio, I am pointing. Your hypothalamus is somewhere like right in the middle of your forehead. Your pituitary is like right below that, so kind of right between your eyebrows. And then your adrenals are two little glands that one sits on top of each kidney. So what this is the HPA axis, and its responsibility is to regulate your endocrine system, your hormone system. So your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, your stress ones, your cortisol, all these different hormone systems. It is also kind of what I like to call the gatekeeper, like the guy or girl who is in charge of like, is everything smooth? Is everything good? Like, are we good to like produce these hormones? Do we need to step back? So your hypothalamus is part of your brain, signals to the pituitary, hey, let the adrenals know, go ahead and start producing all those hormones. However, if the hypothalamus detects we're in a famine, food is short, we're in survival mode, we have a little bit of a starving thing going on, it will shut down what is unnecessary, which in this situation, reproduction is not considered necessary. So your body sees it as now is not a good time to reproduce. Now is not a good time for procreation. So we're going to shut down or start at least down regulating those adrenals and hormones. Instead, we're going to focus on just making sure the heart is beating, the stomach is digesting, and all the other organs are working. So this is your HPA axis. When you have dysregulated blood sugar, it can be from stress, it can be from underlying gut dysbiosis or gut infections, or it can simply be that you are not eating enough for what your body needs. And when you have this, that's when you start seeing hormone imbalances happen because your body cannot keep up with optimal hormone balance and support workouts and support the stress of your daily life and support everything else you got going on when it doesn't have enough fuel. So this is a big thing. This is why I'm like, man, how does everybody's talking about like diet and six pack abs and fat loss, but nobody's talking about like, hey, your diet plan, your keto plan, your fasting plan, like how do you feel though? How's your libido? How's your sleep? How's your brain? Are you feeling anxious all the time? Do you have OCD? Do you have panic attacks? Are you agoraphobic? If so, that diet ain't right for you. You got to find something that supports all of that. So this is kind of like the train that happens like when I first start working with people, like the very bottom, when you start showing symptoms, the underlying root cause happened way before that. So when you start having anxiety and panic attacks, that doesn't just happen overnight. That is a accumulation of nutrition, gut health, micronutrient deficiencies that led to an imbalance in the hypothalamus or the HPA axis in your hormones that now you're having symptoms. But it started way before that, which is why nutrition is so important. So every time you eat, every meal you have, protein, carbs, and fat. You need all three of them. You need fat for hormone production. You need complex carbohydrates to build lean muscle, fuel your workouts, fuel your happy hormones, and to downregulate cortisol and keep things stabilized. You need protein for the amino acids to help with neurotransmitters. And then we're going to get into micronutrients. So like I said, your micronutrients are your vitamins, minerals, things that like your body uses to convert things. So the food you eat. And it's cool because like if you do work with me and we have one lab that I like running where it shows your metabolic profile of when you consume carbs, fats, and protein, there's all these little conversions that happen. They're like, it looks like a little like system or like a cog in a wheel. And how these conversions happen is through your micronutrients. Having enough of the micronutrients there to convert your carbs, convert your protein, convert your fats, and then to create a citric acid cycle and your Krebs cycle and to produce overall ATP and cellular health. I know that was a lot. I'm not going to go too far into that because I realize like that's not what you need to know. What you do need to know is that specific micronutrients can cause symptoms of anxiety attacks, panic attacks, OCD, brain fog, feeling very on edge. Yeah, just feeling uneasy, unsettled, and like highly stressed. There's a lot of them. And honestly, all of them do something different. So I always get messages and comments of people are like, hey, just tell me what I need to take to like get rid of this anxiety. And I'm like, it's not that simple because it could be a micronutrient deficiency. It could be the way you're eating right now. It could be that you need a mindfulness practice. It could be that you have an overgrowth of gut bacteria that is throwing off that gut brain axis, which I'm about to talk about. So it's not always that easy, but here are some of the key micronutrient deficiencies that I have seen in working with people that can cause symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks and OCD and all this stuff. Number one, magnesium. Magnesium helps with over 300 essential processes and enzymes in your body. And typically, this is the first thing I recommend to people if they're having sleep disturbances, if they are always feeling anxious and on edge. Magnesium is going to be super important. Also, the more stressed you are, the more magnesium you're going to need because when you are stressed, your body releases magnesium into the bloodstream to upregulate GABA. GABA is your calming neurotransmitter. So it releases a bunch of your magnesium, potassium, all these minerals to upregulate GABA to try to bring you back down. But if you are always stressed, and your body keeps releasing, you're going to get deficient and you're going to burn through that magnesium a lot faster. If you add to that, that you're also working out and exercise is a stress, even though it's positive, it's still a stress on the body. You're going to burn through magnesium even faster. So magnesium being a huge one, you have to be very careful about the kinds of magnesium you use. Stay away from magnesium oxide. That is probably the cheapest form you can do, and it has a laxative effect. Stay away from that. The other micronutrient deficiency that is very common, especially with anxiety, is the one I already mentioned with B6. But it's not just B6. You also have your other B vitamins. So we have B5, which is really good for adrenal health. We have B12, which is great for nerve health, anxiety, again, adrenal health. B1 is huge for adrenal fatigue, especially if you notice you have allergies, if you've had any kind of like toxic mold or anything like that. But if you also eat carbohydrates, your body uses a lot of your B vitamins, including B1, to metabolize those carbohydrates, which is why, again, in the fitness industry, these high carb diets, there's nothing wrong with high carb, in my opinion, if you are active. But if you're consuming a high carb diet, your body uses micronutrient deficiencies to metabolize all those things. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think a lot of people just think you eat it and then your body metabolizes it, not understanding how it metabolizes it. And the way it does it is through your different vitamins and minerals. So the full B complex, super important for a lot of people, especially if you are trying to improve your mental health and also help with metabolic health. Um, Another huge micronutrient deficiency I see when it comes to hormone imbalances, and again, mental health, is going to be vitamin D. You want to make sure you're taking a vitamin D3 with K2. That K2 is going to help make sure that calcium gets into the right parts of your bloodstream and it doesn't get into your heart and your arteries. So taking vitamin D3, you want to take vitamin D3 with K2 to help with that. Even if you're somebody like I live in Florida, even if you get a lot of sunshine and you're out in the sun all the time, if you are still under a lot of stress, or if you have underlying gut infections or immune system issues or autoimmune stuff going on, your body uses vitamin D to regulate all those things. It's now considered a hormone. So a lot of times when I have guys who are low in testosterone, or they're having like issues with hormone imbalances, usually they're also deficient in things like vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc. And the same technically is true with women too. So vitamin D is the other one. Another one that I think is great for mental health is going to be your omega-3s. So omega-3s help with so much stuff, but one of the biggest things that I love them for is, number one, it helps downregulate inflammation. So a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, not all of them, a lot of it though, is brain inflammation. On top of that, the higher level of inflammation you have in your body, the more insulin resistant you are going to be, which insulin resistance shows up as that storing belly fat. So what we want to do is we want to calm down inflammation. And this is a multi-part process. It's not just, oh, just take omega-3s. That's like a very small piece of it. We start though with what is causing the inflammation. Is it a food that you're eating that is causing the inflammation? Is it your nutrition? Is it your workouts? Is it autoimmune? Is it a gut infection? We have to figure out first what's causing the inflammation. But then one of the things that I recommend as part of the protocol, the full holistic protocol, is incorporating omega-3s. You can get that through food. If you're not eating enough of it through food, you can also get it through supplementation. You just have to look out for the quality and the purity of the omega-3s that you're getting. So those are huge ones just to kind of start off. There's a lot of other ones too, depending if you have specific hormone imbalances. So for example, when women are in their 30s, 40s, and then in their 50s, and you start going through the different hormone changes, high estrogen, low progesterone is going to be one of the biggest factors of causing more anxiety, which with that, there's different natural supplements and herbs you can use to help modulate the brain and to help with a lot of the symptoms that come with that, along with sleep disturbances. But for the most part, that's kind of the starting piece. I always recommend running functional labs. And there's three main ones that I do when I work with clients, and I would love to do with you, that involve looking at your entire metabolism. So we look at your metabolic profile of your gut health, your neurotransmitter health, micronutrients. Then we take a look at your full saliva hormone panel. I don't use blood because blood is not as accurate as saliva. Saliva shows us what's going on at a cellular level. With that panel, we look at 4-point cortisol. So throughout the day, we check your cortisol rhythm. We're also going to check your hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, DHEA, a full thyroid panel, not just your TSH. It's very important that you test a full thyroid panel. And then your fasting insulin, which fasting insulin is a huge thing. Fasting insulin is one of those things that lets me know how well is your body using the carbohydrates that you're consuming. The good news is the more lean muscle mass you have, the more insulin sensitive you are. But with that, our insulin sensitivity changes throughout our age too. And I mean, with women, when we lose estrogen, we become less insulin sensitive because estrogen helps with insulin sensitivity. So there's a lot of things we have to do with our nutrition, also with our workouts and our training in order to adjust that so that we don't end up just storing a bunch of belly fat and not seeing any kind of results. So that's the micronutrient piece. So then we get to the gut health piece. So with your gut health, like I said earlier on in this, over 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So when we do the one metabolic profile and I'm working with clients, there's a marker on there that says serotonin. And I always tell people this does not, if it's high, that does not necessarily indicate that you have high serotonin and you're just happy all the time. It's talking about what's being produced in your gut. And it lets us know your gut health. So digestion, bowel movements, motility, but then also that's what connects to the brain axis. So that's the gut brain axis. So your gut health with your mental health, if you have a lot of gut inflammation, which I would say in working with a lot of men and women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, helping them with fat loss, building lean muscle, reducing anxiety, I have yet to see anyone whose labs came back that didn't have some sort of gut inflammation. And that can be either you have a little bit of like candida overgrowth. Candida can be from a lot of things. Candida is a fungal infection. It can come from the food you're eating. It can come from an underlying infection that you didn't know you had, overuse of antibiotics. It can come from a lot of things. So candida can play a role in that. Dysbiosis can play a role, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or if you have leaky gut being where the little microscopic linings in your gut, as you're consuming things that naturally should get broken down and then excreted through your urine and bowels. When you have leaky gut, some of that stuff seeps out into your bloodstream because the mucosal lining has been, the integrity of it has been compromised. So then we have to look at healing the gut. So all that to say, if you have underlying gut inflammation, it is going to be really hard to regulate everything because everything starts with your gut health. So that gut inflammation is going to turn into brain inflammation and systematic inflammation overall. And it's interesting too, because I even have some people who sometimes we just get them on the right probiotic strain, which I'm not going to go into all the different probiotic strains in this talk, but a lot of people don't realize when you buy a probiotic, each one of those strains serves a specific purpose. So you got one strain that's all just about detox. You have one strain that's about things like getting rid of your excess hormones, your sex hormones. You have another one that's all about like helping with anxiety. You have another one that's for allergies. And then you have ones you want to stay away from if you have allergies because it'll upregulate histamines. Like they're all specific. So I've had some people who all they really needed is just to improve their gut health. And then now their allergies are down, their anxiety is down, they're sleeping better, they're feeling better. So your gut health is really important. And I'm not big on social media other than YouTube and the podcast. And somebody sent me something the other day where it was a fitness influencer talking about how stupid gut health protocols were. And I was like so blown away because I was like, that's literally where everything goes in and everything comes out. So if you got problems going on with your gut, like you're not going to be absorbing any of the food that you eat. you're going to have a lot of micronutrient deficiencies. You're going to have hormone imbalances. You're going to have a poor immune system. Your joints are going to hurt. You're going to store belly fat. Like there's so many reasons why you need to take care of your gut health. So that's the other big piece of this, of making sure your nutrition is supporting your mental health, is also making sure that your gut health is in check. And I mean, this is not a one size fits all type thing. So it's not like I can just say like, hey, just go do this. But some of the places you can start is by making sure that you're eating a wide variety of whole foods. So you're getting fruits and vegetables and whole grains and fiber and lean proteins. And then you're also staying hydrated, lots of water and electrolytes and getting your minerals in. Food is always the first place to start. If you can handle fermented food, so things like kimchi, sauerkraut, if you can handle live food like yogurts that have live probiotic strains in it, all those are great places to start. From there, depending on what your metabolic and gut microbiome looks like, would then determine like, do you need to do a microbiome cleanse? Is there a specific probiotic strain you need to be on? Do we need to do a full protocol of like removing some of the toxicity and then healing your leaky gut? That gets a little more in depth and too much for this video. That would be more if you want to work with me one-on-one. That's part of what we do. So then the last piece of this, well, the second to last piece, so how hidden food sensitivities can cause a lot of things like anxiety and panic attacks. And then I'll share with you my story and experience with all of this. So food sensitivities are different than food allergies. And I think a lot of people get them confused because when I ask people when we start working together, have you ever done a food sensitivity test? And they say, no, but I don't have any allergies. It's not the same thing. So an allergy is where you need an EpiPen that like as soon as you eat it, your tongue swells, your throat starts closing out. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a food sensitivity. Food sensitivity is something you are probably eating in your day-to-day life that triggers underlying inflammation in the body, which throws off your gut health and mental health. So, for example, for the longest time, because I have been in the fitness, nutrition, and wellness space for over 15 years, I always drank whey protein. I always did right after my workout, my post-workout shake was always whey protein. For a long time, I had issues with adult acne. I had issues with hormone imbalances, PMS, like brain fog, all these things. I had really bad like congestion. And I went to an allergist. The allergist couldn't find anything. I went to my OBGYN and hormone doctors, and they were like, oh, just take birth control, which I never did. And then finally, I became like my own advocate, which you should be an advocate for yourself. And I was like, something is not right. And on my own and not prompted by anybody, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own labs. I'm going to see if I have this going on. And I became like a detective. And when I ran my food sensitivity panel, I was like off the charts in anything whey, casein, or cow related dairy. And even to this day, it's not as bad because I've healed my gut. And the beautiful thing is like once you heal your gut, if you do consume something every now and then that you have a sensitivity to, it's very minor as opposed to like totally wrecking your life. But prior to that, I mean, it was like 2 days of feeling like I had like a head cold. I'd break out like all on my cheeks from the response to it. And I had no idea. And that happens all the time. People are eating quote unquote healthy food, but just because it's been tagged as healthy does not mean that it's healthy for you. So you can be consuming, like in my case, you're eating your cottage cheese, you're eating your Greek yogurt, you're drinking your whey protein shake, you're doing almond butter and almond milk and eggs and egg whites. By the way, all of these I had a very extreme sensitivity to. And now you got all these underlying health things going on. You got skin issues, you have insomnia, you have anxiety, sleep disturbances, all this stuff, and you don't know why. You might have a hidden food sensitivity that you're eating every single day that is causing underlying systematic inflammation in your body. So this is where you can kind of see this is a holistic approach. There is no one size fits all when it comes to like real health, nutrition, and fitness. There is no 30-day fix or like do this 75 hard or do keto or do carnivore. There's nothing that's going to just like fix everything because you have to think of yourself as a unique individual. So when we do integrative health training, and one of the things that you have to go through in training is understanding each person's individual biochemistry, which means the way I metabolize carbs, you might not metabolize carbs. The way you metabolize cow milk, I don't do well with cow milk. I might need way more B6 than you need. I might need more magnesium than you need. And every single person has a very unique genetic makeup, very unique body type, and you are going to respond to everything in your own way, which is why it is so important before you do another diet, you do another supplement, you go follow some other influencer, you do some other program, that you make sure what you're doing is personalized to you. And the way that you do this is through data. This is why I like started doing all this because I think it's so cool. And when I work with clients and I show them just this isn't me telling you my philosophies and theories. This is your lab work. Your lab work says you need this much magnesium, this much B vitamins, your hormones are this. You are metabolizing this. You're not metabolizing this. This is your gut health. This is what you don't need. This is what you do need. It's just kind of like getting a blueprint on your own body of what you need so you can give it everything that you do need and nothing that you don't. And that is what I do when I work with clients. And I would love to help you if that's what you're looking for. So, and if you are, download that guide in the description and I kind of go through some of this in more detail and then I'll explain to you how you can work with me if you're interested. So the last piece of this, my story with anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and how I got into this. I don't have enough time in this podcast episode to tell you like every nitty gritty detail, but I'll tell you the basics of it. Is around the age of 18, 19, I had my very first ever anxiety and panic attack, and I felt like I was gonna die. I mean, I thought it was the whole like suffocating, I can't breathe, like palms are sweating, adrenaline's running through my body. And I remember I was like, somebody take me to the hospital because I am going to die. Like I can feel it. This must be it. I guess this is how I'm going out. Like this is what people talk about. I'm 19, but I guess this is what a heart attack feels like. And obviously that's not what happened. I'm still here. When my nervous system came down and somebody explained to me, they're like, hey, you're okay. I think you just had a panic attack. I was like, I'm sorry, what? I had a what? I was in college. I had a long-term boyfriend. I was like figuring out life. I was highly stressed. But in all of that, my eating was all over the place. I was not eating nearly enough because I was skipping meals. I was busy. I was working. I was in college. My stress was through the roof. I wasn't doing anything active. I mean, I had been athletic my whole life, but then I did what most people do when you get out of college. I didn't have my team sports. I didn't have like any athletic thing to let all that energy out. So I wasn't doing anything active. And I went to so many different therapists and I went to doctors and everybody's trying to put me on anti-anxiety meds. And I'm like, I am not. I already feel weird that I have this. I am not going on anti-anxiety meds. And I was very like anti-med, which today I'm more integrative of if it's the right situation and the goal is just to get you feeling better while we come up with a long-term plan, that is different. But at the time, was not about that. So I became obsessed. And I've always been a little obsessed with understanding the why, cause and effect, very much like an analytical, scientific type mind. And I started learning everything about what causes anxiety, what causes panic attacks. And I first learned about like your thoughts and the adrenaline response and the biochemistry of thinking, which is another video I can do on self-talk and cognitive behavior therapy and all those things. But then I learned all about like subconscious beliefs. And if you're always in certain states of mind of negativity and fear and worry, that creates a very high stress response. But then around the age of about 20, 21, I was at a rock bottom, no idea what I was doing with my life. I mean, and I'm talking rock bottom. Like, think of like your darkest hole. I was there. And I had nothing to do, couldn't get a job, couldn't find any friends, couldn't make money. It was middle of winter. I had just finished up my bachelor's degree. And because of that, the only thing I had was as a college student, I had a free membership to the college gymnasium. So there were basketball courts, there's like a rec center, and there was a very small gym. So I started watching YouTube videos years and years ago. This is way back before everybody tried to do YouTube, of this woman who was talking about how to use dumbbells and how to work out. And I started going to the gym. First, it was just 2 days a week. And it was basic stuff. It was like upper body, lower body, maybe some bicep curls, some push up. Like it was very basic. And next day I'm doing leg day. And then that's about it. And over time, I started noticing something that the days that I went to the gym, I had less anxiety. I wasn't struggling as bad. My whole world wasn't resolved, but I became curious even at that age of something is happening and I don't know what. But all I know is the days that I go to the gym and I lift weights and strength train, my brain feels better. I have a little more confidence. I feel better. So I then got super obsessed with that. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to work out. I'm going to learn how to lift weights. I'm going to learn strength training. And I started working out 3, 4, 5 days a week just with dumbbells, just figuring it out. And in that, my anxiety came from like a 10 to like a 2. Partially, there's a lot of physiological things behind this, which I will do a later video on of how strength training helps with all of this. Part of it was that. Part of it is also figuring out nutrition. So while I was doing this, I got certified in nutrition and learned about like protein, carbs, and fats, balanced blood sugar, the basics of nutrition. So I'm making sure I'm eating every few hours. I'm keeping my energy up. And I mean, my anxiety went away for a very long time. That led me to becoming a personal trainer, wanting to share these things with people. And we're talking like at this point, it's over 15 years ago. And learning the ins and outs of really wanting to help empower other people, of building strength from the inside out, and learning that exercise is a form of energy release. Exercise is a way of empowering yourself and building your confidence. Exercise is a form of meditation, and they have proven what it does to the brain and brain health when you strength train and building muscle regularly. Nutrition on top of that is a huge game changer for anxiety. And I got into this, the whole reason I am a huge advocate, and I told my family this the other day of like, I will preach strength training to the day I die because it changed my life. And I have worked with so many men and women, and I cannot tell you how many, I would say women I've seen more, but like also men. I cannot tell you how many men and women come to me and like their life situation totally changes. I see men and women who are in terrible jobs, who are in terrible relationships. They have negative attitudes. They're just in this rock bottom. And then they start working out and they start strength training. And then all of a sudden there's this level of self-respect that happens. Now you don't tolerate the same things. Now you question who you're giving your time away to. Now your level of self-worth starts to go up in your work and in your job. Now your expectations in a relationship go up because your level of self-worth, self-love, self-appreciation goes up, but also because from a scientific perspective and physiological perspective, your brain is rewiring. So that is a very short story. There's a whole other backstory, and maybe one day I'll share like the entire thing with you of why I got into this and why I am so big on your nutrition and fitness plan. It always starts as how do I boost fat loss and build lean muscle? And then you start going through it. And it is so important to make sure that what you are doing every day with the supplements, with your nutrition, your sleep, who you surround yourself with, what you're doing in your workouts, the things you listen to on the news, in movies, in your music, are they supporting the direction that you want to head in your life? It's not just one piece. So I wanted to do this whole episode and this whole video on talking about as you go through your steps in your own fitness transformation, in your own fitness journey, make sure that you're looking at a lot more than just calories in and calories out or just clean eating. Make sure that you are actually looking at yourself as a whole person and then crafting your lifestyle, fitness, nutrition, and mindfulness plan so that not only do you feel strong, are you seeing results on the outside, but you're noticing that you feel better on the inside too. And if you want my help to do that, I would love to be able to help you do that. I got all the links in the description below on how you can do that. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have not already subscribed, be sure to do so as I'm going to keep coming out with videos like this to help you build real strength from the inside out. Until next time, see you on the PR Fuel podcast. Have a great day.